my name is David Weisenhorn. I am a family scientist. So that means I've got a doctorate in family process and family systems. I was a therapist for years, but I'm back in the field of academia, and my role at the University of Kentucky is a senior parenting and child development specialist. So I work through the College of Agriculture through the arm of extension. So one role that I have here at the university is to help educate all constituents in the state, regardless of their ability to attend the university. And I do that through spreading the knowledge about good and evidence-based practices as it relates to parenting. Active Parenting, 4th edition, is what I do, which is, I think it captures that 5 to 13 years of age or something like that, parenting, which is just awesome. Alfred Adler is just a hero of mine, and so the fact that the curriculum is really in line with all of what he does, it just makes sense to me, and it's awesome. So there's 120 counties in Kentucky, and there's a UK representative for family and consumer sciences in every county. And so I work to train those agents to then provide those trainings in their counties to whoever it is. But then I also selfishly love the content, and so I get to teach it myself, and I do that usually through faith-based organizations. So working through churches and working with their congregations to just spread good parenting practices. For me, I love that section, a third section that talks about disciplining and the responsibility. So being able for kids to be able to start taking responsibility and how to know for parents, like, where do I step in? What's my responsibility? What's my responsibility? But more specifically, when we start getting into the polite requests and firm reminders, that's, to me, that's when everything starts, where the material starts to, the rubber meets the road. It starts to be applied within their families. At those sessions, it's when they start going home and they start making those requests known to their children, and then seeing the response and the reaction of their kids. I mean, it's amazing to me how many families come back and say, my son had no idea how I was feeling about the way he was behaving. And so he had no idea he was hurting my feelings or was disrespecting me. So I just think that additional piece of communication that is added through the context of active parenting, and just being able to spell out, hey, this is the reason why we need to parent in this manner. So I think those are like the nuggets. I mean, really, there's not a bad lesson in there. I love communication. So, the more clear we are about communication and understanding that active listening and how we do that compassionately, and that when we listen to kids, all of a sudden they get all that dopamine, and all of a sudden their bodies are feeling better. They're feeling felt, it's just amazing to me when you get to see the brain science and get to communicate that in a way that parents are like, oh, I had no idea. When I went to an elementary school, I literally had a principal contact me and say, David, these are the worst kindergartners that I've ever seen in my life. Would you come and talk to the parents? And I told him yes, and I shared a little bit about what I would be sharing about. And being an employee of the university, we have to use all evidence-based information. And so we know through scientific evidence, that spanking is not beneficial to children. And so I shared with him that I'm going to come with this message that's going to be anti-spanking. Yeah. And he said, you can't come. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, there's no way these parents are going to hear you. So that was a long-winded response to say the difficulties and challenges that I often face are the fact that we have people that are staunch in a cultural value and understanding of how parenting is supposed to happen. And this curriculum really challenges that at the core. And so the challenge at the beginning is to have them hang on until that moment happens when they start going home and put into practice once they've learned those tools. still tell myself each time, like, just be real. And I know that sounds silly and it sounds trite, but it's not as easy as it might appear. And so one of the things that I really work hard to do is to share personal stories. And for some people, that's not what they want to do. I get it. But for me, it helps my audience connect to me. And what I typically share are the blunders that I've made, my parenting blunders, the things that I've not done well in the past, as examples to say, I'm not perfect. That oftentimes knowledge and behavior are two very separate courses of action, right? I can learn material, but that might not necessarily change the way that I carry out that information. And so understanding the difficulty of knowing it, but not actually doing it, and trying to relay that to my audience to remove them from any feelings of guilt or shame that they might feel, and when they realize that maybe they haven't been doing the parenting that they want to be doing, and maybe the things that they have been doing are perpetuating some of the behaviors they don't want to see. And sometimes that can be a hard pill to swallow, especially if someone else is standing in front of them as if they should have known it all along. And so I think some part of that is just, I call it realness, but maybe that's just humility and just staying humble and using the content for what it is. Trying to insert personal stories when appropriate that might help better illustrate the points that I'm trying to make, and illustrate some of the struggles that we as humans, as parents, might have or encounter when trying to do that work. The content that AP4 is going to drive conversation, and those conversations are really rich in knowing that I don't know everything. I believe everybody's got a little dollop of truth, right, that I'm listening. I'm learning from them as much as I might have to offer to them. And so I think just trying to reciprocate that learning process helps a lot too. And I think it helps audiences receive that information well when you don't come from a place of error or knowledge, you know. This curriculum really turns a mirror on yourself and says, how well am I doing in my parenting? And sometimes that's a hard person to stare at in the mirror, especially if we haven't been doing it well. So some people get frustrated. And what I've learned is just to allow that frustration and not feel offended. It's okay if you're upset in my class. It's okay if you don't really want to believe what I'm sharing. That's okay to me too. It doesn't reflect poorly on the curriculum. It just says, hey, you're at a point right now where you feel like you can't consume anymore, and that's fine. Come get what you get from the course. What I've found through all of my classes is that multiple parents say, I want to take this course again. When can I take it again? Because that's the content, right? I think that a lot of times we just get what we need at the moment we need it. And what we might find is that that's not necessarily consuming all of it, and that's totally okay.